Hey guys, my name is Gunnar. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to the channel. Although I think with my existing subscriber count, that's highly unlikely. So you're probably someone new, so welcome to my channel. Here I post some random stuff, mostly related to cars. And today it's going to be model cars. So for the past 1 year, I've been really obsessed with collecting model cars. Because I would really like to have real cars, but when you can't have dozens of six-figure cars in real life, the next best thing is to collect model cars. So I'm no expert. I mean, 1 year of being a hobbyist is hardly enough to become an expert, but I have learned a thing or two, and today I'd like to share some of my knowledge with you guys. So basically, today is the core subject of today's video is going to be scales and sizes. Model cars come in all sorts of sizes and scales. As you can see, things get progressively smaller. So what's the difference? Which one should you get? How much do they cost in general? And what should you know? What should you keep in mind? There's a lot to talk about. So let's get started. Now, model cars, I mean, they can get as large as 1 to 8 scale. That's the largest I've seen. 1 to 12, 1 to 16. But the most common size, the most common largest size that you see in most people's homes, most people's collections are 1 to 18, like these two cars here, the Tesla Model 3 from Tesla and this Mercedes-Benz S-Class from Norev. Now, 1 to 18 models can be premium, high-end models like these two, which are made for adult collectors and are generally bought from dealers or the manufacturers themselves. You won't find these in shops because they're just not meant for kids and they're not all that inexpensive. They could be anywhere from 50 to 300 euros, just the new price. And if they're limited edition, which they sometimes are, they can also obviously appreciate in value. Now, the most common or most well-known premium makers are, as I said in the case of the S-Class, Norev. We also have Auto Art, Mini Champs, GT Spirit, Kyosho, LCD models. And there's a lot to talk about. I guess in the United States of America, you probably have even more, but I'm talking about the ones that I'm most familiar with here in Europe. But then you also have, in 1 to 18 scale, more mainstream models from Burago, Maisto, and Veli, which you will find in your local department stores, but they are meant for kids. So they're, the manufacturer is more focused on durability than actual attention to detail. But if you do want attention to detail, so you have to look from 50 to, as I said, 150, 200, maybe even 300 euros. That's where you get some of the real nice stuff, such as these two cars here. Moving down, we have 1 to 24 scale. Now, I should make a point. These are 1 to 18. This is 1 to 24. There could be a manufacturer who makes 1 to 20 cars. So there could be the odd scale somewhere out there, but I'm just talking about the most common scales, which are 1 to 18. And directly after that, we have 1 to 24, which is this Porsche Taycan by, I have forgotten the model maker. It is Burago. So this is one of those mainstream models. As I said, with the 1 to 18, you can have both mainstream models and premium, but in the 1 to 24 space, it's just mainly, mainstream models. You just won't find many or hardly any high-end models in this scale. So here you have Burago, Maisto, and so on, and Veli. So these are mainly meant for kids or people who just want to, who don't want to commit as much in terms of money. So they just want as cheap as possible. That's whom these models are meant for. In terms of size, obviously they're all different cars, right? So you can't really say proportionately how much things get smaller or larger, but roughly this S-Class is 28 centimeters long. This Taycan is 19 centimeters long. So that makes it about roughly 32% smaller than the S-Class. But as I said, the Taycan in general in real life is smaller than the S-Class. So, it's not really exact, but a rough estimate. Then moving down, we have the 1 to 32 scale. Now, both 1 to 32 and 1 to 24 are generally mainstream models. You just won't find many premium models here. And once again, we have, I don't even know who made this. Once again, Burago. They are really famous in this space. And we have this, broken Ford Fusion by Kinsmart. That's a brand I've never heard of, except for on this one model. So these are both 1 to 32 models. And so the Taycan was 19 centimeters long. This I measured earlier is still 13 centimeters long. So that makes it once again about 31% smaller than the 1 to 24 scale Taycan. Now coming to 1 to 43rd, As I said, 1 to 18 is shared by both mainstream manufacturers and high-end manufacturers. 1 to 24 and 1 to 32 is not shared by premium manufacturers. It is exclusive to mainstream manufacturers. And it's the opposite with 1 to 43rd scale models. This is where you'll find pretty much only high-end models because as things get smaller, more mainstream buyers, people who don't want to spend much, they'll be like, oh God, it's just a very small model. I'd rather spend less and get a larger model. I don't really care about the details. I don't want something too small for my kid to play with in case something breaks off, such as the badge on this Rolls Royce, and they swallow it. So so people who don't have such a large budget, they'd rather want more bang for their buck. So the larger the size and lower the price, that's what really fits in with their ideology. So they'd rather go with something larger. When you're going smaller, this is for people who don't really care about the value proposition. They just want the most detailed model possible. And obviously they don't have kids, or at least they won't let kids play with them. So having small, delicate parts such as these door mirrors, especially this hood ornament on the Rolls Royce Ghost. Yeah, that's a Ghost. It doesn't really matter because adult collectors, we know how to handle these models carefully. We know that we should keep them away from kids. And so this smaller scale is exclusive to higher end models. I'm not sure how big these are. I think the Passat was about 11 centimeters when I measured it. And this Gallardo, right? That's a Gallardo. Yep, that's a Gallardo. Is about 13 centimeters. So that makes this about 16% smaller. So as you can see, the jump here was bigger, right? 32% smaller, 31% smaller, but then here it is only 16% smaller. So that's about 11 centimeters long. Then we come to the 1 to 64 scale, which is actually really popular because that's where you'll find the much loved Hot Wheels and what other brands do we have? Hot Wheels, Majorette, those and so on. But even in this space, you do have mainstream brands such as Hot Wheels. And we also have premium brands such as this Mini GT. And you can see, even though they both depict or are supposed to represent the Porsche Taycan, the high-end model, the white one, Mini GT, is just larger. It just feels more substantial. You can't really tell that from the video, but I can feel the weight. It just feels a lot more substantial. It has far more details, and the wheels are the real ones that you get on the real car. These are just generic wheels. The headlights on this one are just painted. The ones on this are actual lenses. Obviously, the price point is different, right? This, I bought this for €1. This could easily be 10, 15, 20 as they get rarer. This you'll find, hundreds of, I don't know how many Hot Wheels makes of each car, but this is fairly easy to find. This will only get rarer, so as a result, it is more expensive. So this is about 7.5 centimeters long, and the difference in terms of percentage is about 37. So this Passat is 11 centimeters long, roughly, and this Taycan is 7.5. But I guess, if you took this Taycan, I can't really measure it properly because it's on its stand, but I'd say roughly the difference is 37% from the 1 to 43rd scale models to the 1 to 64 scale model right here. So just to recap, we have the 1 to 18 scale model, then about 32% smaller. We have the 1 to 24 scale model. Another 31% smaller, we have the 1 to 32 scale model. Then we have the 1 to 43rd scale model, only 16% smaller. But then we have the 1 to 64 scale models, which are a whopping 37% smaller. And then we have 1 to 87. Now, once again, in between, you do sometimes find 1 to 76, 1 to 72. It's not uncommon. But the most common models that I've seen so far are 1 to 87. These are the smallest that I've ever seen. And they're generally meant for little train sets. I mean, if you have a large set to build, obviously everything needs to be shrunken down. And then that's where you use tiny little cars like these. And that's where they're super fragile. For example, this Mercedes S-Class used to have a hood ornament It's broken off because I was much younger when I got it and I wasn't terribly careful with it as I am now with my much larger S-Class. I just wish I was just as careful with this, but the point is this is really not meant for kids. So this is about this was about 5.5 centimeters long, this Taycan, and I think it's about 22% smaller than the 7.5 centimeter long Taycan. This is about 7.5. This is about 5.55. I don't know. I mean, it just changes model to model, right? I'm just giving random estimates here. But you can see the size difference as the models get progressively slower. Progressively smaller. So we have 1 to 24 Taycan, 1 to 43rd Taycan, 1 to, hang on, let me put them right next to each other. That'll make it look even better. Okay, so yeah, 1 to 24, 1 to 43, 1 to 43, 1 to 64, 1 to 87. I mean, things just keep getting smaller. And as I said, these are generally meant for, train sets or anything or something like that, because you can't really enjoy them. If you stand further away from them, you can't really see them all that well. And as they get smaller, it's hard to incorporate many details. So personally, if you want to collect the cars themselves, only the cars, I'd rather not. I wouldn't really recommend this because this is only supposed to be like a prop. If the trains are the main attraction and these are just to be there as, to complete the scenery, that's all right. But if you want the cars to be the main attraction, they're just a little too small and I wouldn't really buy them. I just bought this one so that I could complete the Taycan family. But personally, not for me. When it comes to 1 to 64, I do have a lot of Hot Wheels. I do have a ton of Hot Wheels and Matchbox. So as I said earlier, as the cars get larger, you have to start thinking about funds and space, because having one 1 to 18 scale car is one thing. Let's say this costs about 100 euros. Having 10 would make that 1,000 euros, which suddenly isn't that cheap. I mean, 100 euros is something you can swallow. Okay, fine. But 1,000, 2,000, at that point, you really have to be committed to this thing. Otherwise, you shouldn't even try it. So my point is, if you start collecting, be aware of what scale you want and whether you have the resources for that. I mean, if you're able to allocate that much money from your monthly income or whatever your source of income is, and whether you have the space in the first place. For a lot of people, it's not the money, but the space that is actually a premium. So this is supposed to show that, for example, with Hot Wheels and Matchbox, I've got a box full of them. You can collect a ton of them. They're cheap. You can store them anywhere. You don't have to worry about them breaking or getting damaged. You can always replace them. Whereas with these, you've got to, when you move them, transport them, you've got to transport them in their own boxes. Sometimes you lose those, then it's a nightmare to transport them, that sort of thing. And if you do want to put them, you have to make sure to put them in a nice glass case so that they don't get damaged by sunlight or dust, for example, that sort of thing. As a result, so this is something you should keep in mind when you're committing to building a collection. You should really know what sort of lifestyles you currently have, whether these fit right into your lifestyle. Would you have to change your lifestyle, spend less on other things or clear out your room to make more space, that sort of thing. With 1 to 43rd scale models, so as you can see, because they are smaller, much smaller than the 1 to 18s, I have more of these. Not quite as many as the Matchbox and Hot Wheels 1 to 64, but as you can see, definitely a lot more. So what would I recommend? Well, I'm assuming that because you've clicked on this video, you're interested in collecting. So I assume that you're not just someone looking to buy their kids some Hot Wheels. So I'm not going to talk about the Hot Wheels right now. Personally, my favorite scales are 1 to 18. If I had a massive mansion and if I had infinite money, these are what I would buy. They are the heaviest. They feel more substantial. They're the ones which have all the opening doors and bonnets and that sort of thing. And they just look more detailed. Interior, they have seat belts and that sort of thing. So personally, if you have the money, if you have the space, this is what you should get because they are the best of the best. Of course, you can also go larger, 1 to 8. I think I've seen some Ferrari models, but those are like thousands of euros. That's for people who have, are filthy rich. For most normal people, 1 to 18 is where it should really end. But if you don't have that much space, or if you would like to collect a lot of models, then unfortunately you're going to have to scale down and get 1 to 43rds. But remember, these are still premium models. These are still meant to, accurately represent the real models. So, well, they might be a little fragile and should be kept away from kids. That is really important with both premium 1 to 18s and 1 to 43rd models. They do still represent the real car quite accurately. So if you're not too much into the opening doors and the carpets inside, that sort of thing, and you don't mind a smaller scale, I'd say 1 to 43rd is definitely a good choice, because that way you still have a great looking model in terms of details, but you also you can save a lot of space and potentially money. And also they allow you to make huge collections. So for example, I have an entire Skoda Octavia collection, Mark 1, Mark 2. Well, technically this is the new Mark 1. So Mark 1, Mark 2, 3, 4, and we have the fourth one here. We have all four generations of the Skoda Fabia. I have, for example, I have the liberty, I have the space to have both the Skoda Octavia and the Volkswagen Golf. I don't have to choose between them. I get to have the Skoda Superb as an estate, as well as a saloon. So when you have that much space, you can just be more liberal with it. When you have limited space, I mean, look at the 1 to 18s. I really have only the most important models. Although I guess I will have to put in new shelves to accommodate further future 1 to 18 models. I have the new EQS. You can check out my review on my channel. I have the Audi RS6. Talking of, I also mentioned that they're limited, that they could end production. So this is, for example, number 1128 of less than 2000. So yeah, 1 to 18s by premium manufacturers tend to be limited sometimes. And we also have a Porsche 911 992 Turbo S. So yeah, that was basically my tour of my model cars. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.